Jamal Khashoggi was killed 9 months ago. His murder and the whereabouts of his body remain a mystery. But the gruesome descriptions from an audio tape Turkey shared with world leaders caused an international outcry and calls for the perpetrators to be brought to justice. It all started on October the 2nd when Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi entered the Saudi consulate in Istanbul to retrieve documents for his upcoming wedding. This is the moment he entered the building. A few minutes later, he was killed by a hit squad sent from Saudi Arabia. The murder strained relations between Turkey and Saudi Arabia. Turkish officials accused the kingdom of stalling the investigation and undermining efforts to find out what happened inside the consulate. Ankara called for an international investigation that was rejected by Riyadh. UN investigator and special rapporteur Agnes Callamard has investigated the case. Callamard was denied access to the Saudi consulate, but her team listened to an audio tape detailing Khashoggi's final moments.
Really interesting will be if she does name people, and it's the same as the 5 people apparently on trial at risk of their lives in Saudi Arabia, or whether she names others. And so I think the alternative is from named people that it will in some way implicate the state as a body, and that's much more difficult to tie down to a criminal charge. It is much more diffuse, and there's less for the activist or for Turkey to grab hold of.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. They did not make that assessment.
The Trump administration made a few statements denouncing the murder of Khashoggi, but stayed short of taking action. But 22 bipartisan members of the Senate called for an investigation into Khashoggi's death. The CIA believe Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the assassination.
If there's an indictment regarding the Khashoggi killing, it's going to put more pressure on the Trump administration overall, but it's not necessarily going to make them decide to cut ties in terms of military funding to Saudi Arabia. It will help feed in to the pressure from Congress in particular, and Congress is likely to use that as an argument for cutting future weapon sales to Saudi Arabia.
Trump is trying to bypass congressional approval for an $8 billion arms sale to Saudi Arabia. The move was widely criticized by the Congress. After initially denying any involvement in Khashoggi's murder, Saudi Arabia acknowledged the journalist was killed after a fight broke out with the people he met at the consulate. Saudi Arabia's narrative about Khashoggi changed over time, from denial to acknowledging the journalist's murder was premeditated. But Turkey and the UN inquiry team are still trying to figure out what exactly happened on October the 2nd, and if the order to kill Jamal Khashoggi came from the highest authorities in Riyadh. Hashem Ahelbarra, Al Jazeera, Istanbul.